Here's a fun fact nobody tells you in school. The most powerful civilization in human history, the one that built roads we still use, laws we still follow, and a language that never actually died, started as a sheep village. No walls, no senate, no army, just mud huts, goats, and one very ambitious shepherd king who decided that wasn't good enough. And 1,200 years later, that shepherd village had conquered everything from Scotland to Iraq. This is the entire history of Rome, and I promise, it's wilder than anything Netflix has made about it. Rome begins not with glory, but with a murder. 753 BC. Two brothers, Romulus and Remus, found a city on 7 hills next to the Tiber River. They disagree immediately about basically everything. Romulus builds a wall. Remus jumps over it to prove a point. Romulus kills him. And just like that, the city is named after the guy who committed its first homicide. Very on brand for what Rome will become. Now Romulus is king, but his city has a problem, a massive one. Rome has soldiers, walls, and ambition. What it does not have? Women. Like, almost none. So Romulus does what any reasonable founder would do. He throws a festival, invites the neighboring Sabine tribe. Bring the whole family, there will be free food. And then just kidnaps all the women mid-party. This became known as the rape of the Sabine women, and historians treat it as a founding myth. The Romans treated it as a foreign policy success. Rome cycles through 7 kings over the next 2 centuries. Some build temples, some build sewers, one builds a wall. Eventually, one of them becomes so insufferably tyrannical that the Roman people don't just overthrow him. They abolish the entire concept of kings. Forever, we're done. No more kings, we learned. So they replace 1 king with 2 kings. Except they're called consuls. And they're elected. And they switch out every year, and they can veto each other. The Roman Republic has begun. And yes, I said republic, we're still 500 years away from the empire. Buckle up. The republic works mostly because Romans are obsessed with the idea that no single man should have all the power. They build an entire political system around this one fear. 2 consuls, a senate, term limits, checks and balances. It's genuinely impressive for 500 BC. Genuinely. And then they go to war with literally everyone. First it's their Latin neighbors, then hill tribes, then Greek colonies in the south. Then the Greek colonies call in backup from the Greek king Pyrrhic, who brings war elephants to Italy, because of course he does, and nearly defeats Rome before running out of soldiers. He won every battle and still lost the war, which is why we still call a pointlessly costly victory a Pyrrhic victory. Rome just kept replacing dead soldiers until Pyrrhic ran out of options. That's not strategy, that's stubbornness, elevated to an art form. But the real test comes from across the Mediterranean, Carthage. Carthage is rich, Carthage has a navy, Carthage controls North Africa and most of Spain. And Carthage has absolutely no interest in sharing the Mediterranean with Rome. So they fight 3 wars. Historians call them the Punic Wars and describe them very calmly, which is insulting because they were absolutely chaotic. War 1. Rome doesn't have a navy, so they steal the design of a captured Carthaginian ship, build 100 copies in 60 days, and win a naval war against the people who invented Mediterranean naval warfare. Rome wins, Carthage loses Sicily. War 2. Carthage sends Hannibal Barca. This man marches 50,000 soldiers and 37 war elephants over the Alps in winter, something that everyone told him was impossible, and proceeds to spend 15 years inside Italy destroying Roman armies. He wins battle after battle, and Rome still refuses to surrender. Rome sends an army to attack Carthage directly, forcing Hannibal to turn back. Rome wins. Barely. War 3. Rome decides Carthage is still existing, and that's annoying, so they delete it completely, burn the city, sell the population into slavery, and pour salt on the ground so nothing grows there again. Roman Senator Cato ended every single speech in the Senate, regardless of topic, with the phrase, "Carthage must be destroyed." He got what he wanted. With their only real rival gone, Rome spirals into full addiction to conquest. Spain, Greece, Turkey, Egypt, Gaul. That's modern France. By 50 BC, Rome controls the entire Mediterranean and is starting to look at Britain just because it's there, but the Republic is cracking. The wealth from conquest floods Rome, but it doesn't reach regular Romans. Rich landowners buy up farmland. Small farmers, the same men who fought Rome's wars, can't compete and go broke. They flood into the city poor and angry. Politicians exploit this anger. Generals realize that if they pay their soldiers personally, those soldiers are loyal to them, not to Rome. Suddenly, everyone has a private army and nobody agrees on anything. Generals start marching on Rome the way other people write strongly worded letters. This is the environment into which walks Julius Caesar. Caesar is not a simple man to explain. He's simultaneously the most popular politician in Rome, a military genius who conquers all of Gaul in 8 years, a writer who documents his own campaigns with the modesty of someone who very much knows history is watching, and, according to his enemies, a dangerous tyrant collecting political offices like their achievements. He crosses the Rubicon River with his army in 49 BC, an act of open war against the Senate, takes Rome without a fight, defeats his rivals, reforms the calendar, cancels debts, distributes land to veterans, and rebuilds half the city. The Senate responds by stabbing him 23 times on the floor of a meeting. They call themselves the Liberators. The Roman public calls them something considerably less polite. What follows is 17 years of civil war until one man comes out standing. Caesar's 18-year-old great-nephew Octavian. He's young. He looks harmless. He is absolutely not harmless. By 27 BC, Octavian has defeated every rival, controlled every legion, and held every major office. The Senate gives him a new name, Augustus. It means something between revered and the guy who clearly won. Let's not make this weird. The Republic is over. The Empire begins. Augustus is the most important Roman who ever lived, and he gets less credit than Caesar because he was boring on purpose. He doesn't call himself king. He calls himself first citizen. He doesn't grab power. He just quietly reorganizes every institution until the power flows through him naturally. He professionalizes the army so soldiers serve the state, not generals. He stabilizes the borders. He builds roads, reforms taxes, and makes the grain supply reliable. Rome enters what historians call the Pax Romana, 200 years of relative peace and prosperity. Cities grow. Trade explodes. A Roman citizen can travel from Britain to Syria on paved roads, sleep in inns, use the same coins, and access the same legal system the entire way. For most people living inside the empire, this is genuinely the best life available on Earth at this point in history. And then it starts to fall apart, not dramatically, not all at once. More like a very expensive piece of furniture slowly developing structural problems that everyone notices and nobody fixes. The Praetorian Guard, Rome's elite palace soldiers, discover that emperors need their protection more than the other way around. By 193 AD, they literally auction the throne to the highest bidder. The winning emperor lasts 66 days before they kill him too. In the 3rd century, Rome goes through 26 emperors in 50 years. Most die violently. Plagues tear through cities. Inflation collapses the economy. The borders start leaking. One emperor looks at this chaos and makes a radical decision. The empire is too big for one man to run. He splits it into 4. Then his successors fight over the pieces until Constantine wins in 324 AD. Constantine makes 2 decisions that echo for the next 1,700 years. First, he legalizes Christianity, the religion Roman emperors had been sporadically executing people for, and eventually adopts it himself. Second, he moves the capital east and builds a new city on the Bosphorus Strait, Constantinople. Rome is still there, but the power isn't. The Western Empire limps forward for another century and a half. It's not conquered so much as gradually replaced. Germanic tribes, the Visigoths, the Vandals, the Ostrogoths, don't invade so much as fill the vacuum left by a Roman state that can no longer pay or organize itself. In 410 AD, the Visigoths sack Rome. The Eternal City, untouched by enemies for 800 years, falls to a Germanic army in 3 days. In 455, Rome gets sacked again. Different people this time. At this point, it's basically a recurring event. And in 476 AD, the last Western Roman emperor, a teenager named Romulus Augustulus, named after both the city's founder and its first emperor, as if history enjoys a cruel joke, is told politely by his own Germanic general to go home. He does. Nobody really notices. The Western Roman Empire doesn't end with a battle. It ends with paperwork and a very uncomfortable conversation. But here's the thing people get wrong about Rome's fall. Rome didn't disappear, it transformed. The Eastern Empire, Constantinople, survives for another 1,000 years, fighting off Persians, Arabs, and Crusaders until the Ottomans finally take the city in 1453. The Catholic Church preserves Roman law and Latin across Europe. Every European legal system today traces directly back to Roman jurisprudence. The words you're hearing right now, empire, senate, republic, citizen, military, are Latin. Roads built by Roman engineers are still in use. The Roman calendar, reformed by Julius Caesar, is essentially the one on your phone. A city built by a murderous shepherd king in 753 BC left fingerprints on literally everything that came after it. Not bad for a sheep village. If you want the full story of the Eastern Roman Empire, yes, the one that survived Rome's fall by 1,000 years, that video is next. Subscribe so you don't miss it. History does not just repeat, it rhymes. So make sure you are listening for the next Money Echoes. Subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.